When I first read The Shallows, it was such an exciting story. It just grabs you on such a primal level. The power to survive, the power of will. You immediately imagine, what would I do if I was in this situation?
It's a big challenge to make a movie like this. I have done movies before that are, very high concept, but these had elements that they're all scary by themselves. It has one location, has water, only one character, live animals, and a CG monster. Put together, they make a mega challenge for a director.
Everyone says making a movie on water is the most difficult thing on earth, and you think, how hard can it be? It's really hard. The weather changes every 10 minutes, or there's mechanical things that don't work because the ocean is stronger than you think it's going to be. Everything about shooting in the water is hard.
So we're here, we've just managed to install our rock. It's a very, very complicated engineering feat. It goes down about 5 meters all the way down to the bottom, where there are several tons of cement blocks that are holding this rock in place, which is identical to the rock that you're going to see in the tank. Yeah! Amanda!
We had a replica of the rock that we used in the tank that we needed to put in the ocean first. We submerged a huge piece of grid, essentially, to try to get it on. The Australian marine divers are some of the best in the world. And we were very fortunate to have them on our crew, and they really worked very, very hard to help us with that.
These are the guys that did it. Look at this incredible team of workers here.
Unfortunately, the seas were so rough that for the first 8 days, we couldn't actually get it on. We had to reconfigure the rock so that we could figure out how to do it, and finally we were successful.
The power of the ocean, it can never be underestimated. You don't know, even if you get there with everything, with the cameras, the actor and everything, if the swell is gonna let you shoot anything. The most complicated scene in that aspect would be the scene in which Blake is talking to the surfers.
Careful, gringa! Stop out here for a little girl from Texas.
I think I'll be all right.
It's the simplest scene that you can imagine, and yet it's almost impossible to shoot because
tus trailers.
everything
Visita
in the
mi
ocean
canal.
moves. Even if it looks like the swell is not big, it's huge. So you have grips basically trying to ride the crane to keep that steady. At the same time, you have divers holding Blake, because if they don't hold her, she's gonna drift. So in order to do like a 2-minute scene, it takes like an entire day. There's another scene in which we have to capture the point of view of Nancy from the rock as the surfers are coming to her. We cannot do that from a boat because, like I've described, even if it's steady, it moves a little bit. So we use the platform from the rock and we extended that with a tripod, and we put a cameraman on top of the tripod in the middle of the ocean. So you're trying to do something that is very technical, yet everything around you is very chaotic. It's pretty crazy, but we did it. It makes me really proud to be part of this team, but especially Blake. Once she was in the water, she wouldn't leave the set until we made sure that everything was absolutely perfect and we got everything that we needed.
It's a very, very, very physical film, so I had to train not only to learn how to surf as best as possible, but there was a lot of just endurance training and physical training for my body that I had to do, but it made me proud to be able to do that work.
I think it's physically very exhausting. She, got in extraordinary shape to do the role, because it wasn't about looking good in a bikini as much as it was about being able to do the physical action that she needed to do to pull off the role and to be believable as a surfer.
The island was chaotic and magical, and the tank was very technical and frustrating. You could control aspects of it, but there were a lot of limitations. You're basically shooting for 30 days in the same direction. And you cannot just turn around because we have the wave machines over here and the cranes over there. Which means that you're doing one shot like this and the reverse also like this. So it becomes a puzzle, but you're doing basically the same shot over and over again.
The movement of the buoy is pretty complicated, so we built a hydraulic system that moved that buoy and actually swung it very, very wildly.
The big thing with the buoy is that in the storyline, the shark attacks the buoy. So, of course, when the shark attacks it, the buoy actually gets knocked down and it ends up laying parallel in the water.
And that created the movement of the shark attacking the buoy. It was quite successful.
In any movie that it's sort of a survival story, us as people that make them have a journey as well in making them. And I think this movie has had a journey for me that equals the journey of the character, which is, you know, having survived the experience and grown from it.
The first thought that's going through my mind is that I'm about to die. I was screaming and just terrified.
The shark is, I think, terrifying. Most people, if they were in the water and had to face an attack by a great white shark, can't even imagine that kind of fear.
They're a wild animal and they're in their habitat. So you really have to have an awareness always that you're in the wild.
I've grown up in this area my whole life, and also I've been a swimmer since I was 6 years old. And past 3 years, I have been swimming out in these waters extensively. I actually trained in these waters to swim the Catalina Channel, which for my swim was a 24-mile swim. I spent about 8 months training, and all the training was done up and down the beach right here. And that's what I did for my 50th birthday. July 5th was the day of my shark attack, but the night before, I was out celebrating 4th of July with a lot of my friends. Had I just had just one more beer that night celebrating with my friends, I would have been too tired to get up in the morning to get out and go swimming with my ocean group. Every Saturday morning we meet right here at this beach and we swim out to the end of this pier, swim out and around, and we head over to Manhattan Pier. It's about a 2-mile swim. It takes about an hour to get from pier to pier. And I was almost down at the end of that swim, and about 12 feet underneath me I see this shark. And within 2 seconds it surfaces right up in front of me. And I was like, oh my God, this thing's too close. And right as I thought that, it came in and it bit me right on my torso here.
People have this idea as white sharks being these mindless killers that are out stalking people, and that simply isn't true. And the more we learn about white shark behavior, the better we understand that they're like any other animal in the ocean, right? They have to eat, but their prey tend to be large. The real challenge is we don't really know why sharks occasionally bite people. However, we can break those down into 2 simple categories. Sharks either bite people for predation reasons. In other words, they're intent on feeding. They either think of humans as food or they mistake humans as food. And in most cases, we think sharks might bite people because of mistaken identity. So in other words, a person is at the surface in a wetsuit, kind of looks like a seal or a sea lion. In some cases, those people are simply bitten, but they're able to swim all the way back to shore. The shark doesn't finish them off. The problem is, if it's made of protein and it's perfectly edible, why wouldn't a starving shark eat a person, even if they mistake them as prey? Another possibility is for defensive reasons. If they feel threatened, they will protect themselves. So in some cases, it's possible that a swimmer or a surfer is getting close to a shark. Shark saying, you're too close, you're in my space, back off. The person doesn't even see the shark there. Shark rushes over, takes a bite, person leaves, and the problem is solved for the shark.
It held on to me for about 5 seconds. As it's grabbing in on me, we're staring at each other eye to eye as it's gnawing in on me. I could feel the whole length of this shark as it's digging in on me. It's very terrifying, I'm thinking it's my very last
Y
moment.
tus trailers. Visita mi
You
canal.
really don't have time to be scared. You have to fight for your life. There's nothing else you can do.
The one thing we always tell people is if you see a shark, quite often that's a good thing. You know, kind of keep your eye on the shark, and as the shark swims by, just kind of watch it. If the shark knows you're watching it, part of the gig is up, and quite often they'll just move along. If the shark starts coming back and repeatedly coming back and coming closer and closer, they're telling you it's time to get out of the water. Always keep your eyes on the shark if you can. And slowly, not crazily, move your way out of the water if you can. If a shark actually bites you, we recommend that you hit it as hard as you can in the snout or in the eyes, because those tend to be very sensitive parts of the body, and quite often the shark will release the person.
The shark released itself, and I was able to take a few strokes behind me, and my first friend was right there. I jumped on top of him in a big panic, and I told him I got bit by a shark, and I was screaming and just terrified. With this hand, I'm holding on to my cut, my lacerations that are right here. And I was just looking straight up because I was so scared to look down. And as all that's happening, they said they see the sharks circling around us. By the time I got to shore, all the lifeguard, paramedics, a whole crowd of people were there. And it just happened so quick. When I grabbed the nose of the shark, apparently I grabbed its tooth. This hit the artery, and this thing was just bleeding nonstop for about 3 hours. They were doing direct pressure, and it took about 3 hours before this bleeding would stop. I had 11 stitches right in here, and they left them kind of open so that it would continue to bleed out throughout the week, because apparently it's a dirty bite, so they want all the bacteria to be able to flush out. On my thumb here, I had about 7 stitches, and I lost my sensation in here for about a month.
I was always terrified of great white sharks, so I've spent time in the water face to face with those creatures.
Cage diving with conservationists.
But being in the water with them, seeing them in their habitat, being within their habitat, and they don't look like these big monstrous creatures with the teeth coming after the meat. They're just swimming around, and they're beautiful, and they're peaceful, and they're serene, and they were playing. And
We're still seeing a lot of shark activity in Southern California. And this is where a bulk of the people use the ocean year-round. So this is something that I think we have to all start to expect as our coastal ocean gets healthier and shark populations come back.
I hear about shark attacks and wonder why I'm so blessed. I have my arms and legs. For the most part, everything about me is normal. And others weren't as lucky as me. Some don't make it out.
We have to learn to share the waves with sharks. So while The Shallows is a movie and it's kind of playing off that idea of sharks as an important predator in the ocean and occasionally biting people, I think it's really important that people remember that most of the time the sharks are out there minding their own business, doing what sharks do. We're a visitor to the ocean, and we have to learn to share the waves.
We created a scary shark.
Nancy has stumbled into the feeding ground of a great white shark, who is enormous and dangerous.
I'm not just thinking of the shark as this attacker, I'm thinking of it as this incredible creature that's doing the same thing I'm doing. Just trying to survive.
I tried to create, design, give life to a shark that was based on reality, trying to figure out what traits, what things would identify certain type of sharks that could be in this movie. I came to the conclusion that the shark had to be a female. Females are slightly bigger, visually more scary, and they're obviously can be more protective. Designing that shark was a good way to start.
We started off with a piece of concept art. Chum had a concept artist drawing. So we translated that with our sculptors into this. So this is our hero shark. This is a 1:5 model of our hero shark, which is a 22-foot long great white. Now it has a nice side. Then we have the mean side. So this is a pretty mean side of our shark.
This particular shark has a history. The shark has a huge hook that's embedded in its mouth, and you can see the scar from where the hook has been there for a long time.
Someone got you.
So you realize that this shark is not just hunter, but hunted as well.
We made her like this so the Jama could see her
Y tus
before
trailers.
visual
Visita
effects
mi canal.
took over and designed the shark. He wanted to see it with all its markings and glory and just how mean we could make it so that they would have a specific idea of what the shark was that he wanted to see in the film.
So we've designed the shark, now we need to bring that shark to life.
The hardest thing about water and CGI is the interaction of the CGI with the water. We really worked out a way to try to create physical elements that are able to create the movement of the water, which we'll then replace with CGI.
We came up with sort of interesting devices like putting the fin on a sea bob to break the surface of the water.
We've been using a shark fin that travels through the water to replicate our shark. It's attached to what's called a sea bob, and a sea bob is an underwater scooter. It's battery powered and it's fantastic for what we want.
Many people were like, wow, this is great, is this actually the fin? It's like, no, it's not the fin, but that disturbance in the water surface or those splashes are going to be very useful in post-production.
The challenge for Blake as the actress is having to respond and react to something that isn't there.
It makes it difficult, but also I'd rather use my imagination than have a big puppet to act opposite that's very mechanical. I do appreciate having a co-star. It makes my job so much easier, but when it's CGI, you're playing off of yourself.
It's really the marriage of visual effects and special effects that make the CGI look so great in this film.
We're trying to take natural motions of the shark and adapt them to the story. Jama was always referencing real shark moments, and we were using those in our own way to tell the shark story or make it more aggressive or use its weight as one of its strengths, literally. But it always went back to what real sharks did. We wound up with a feeling that this is a big diesel-powered shark. Lots of torque, lots of weight going into it. And when it's on its circling motion, it's just cruising. It knows it's in control of its environment.
There's practical reference of sharks and waves, and so it's one of the first shots Jama really attached himself to. He really wanted to put Blake in there with the shark, and that's kind of like their first meeting.
Very definitely had a way he wanted to reveal it, where you see it barely and then it comes through. We first previewed the film and people started pointing to the screen when they saw the shark appear. That's that kind of visceral reaction you want in a film like this.
It's really the first time you see the full glory of the shark.
There's a lot of information in that scene. So when the shark jumps out of the water after her, it just begins to tell us so much about the shark. It's actually pretty important on a number of fronts. In the end shot, everything behind Blake has been extended or replaced. We're taking over and putting in the digital shark with probably the most detail of any of the shark shots. The way the lips pull back as the mouth bites. These are all, again, signature shark moments that Jama was really into showing. Story-wise, Nancy is really feeling she's run out of choices and she's not going to take this anymore. So she begins to strike back.
3, 2, 1, go. We obviously wanted to shoot as much as we could practically, so we went through every idea you can imagine. Ultimately, it was a big CG takeover.
It's a heavily choreographed scene, and just getting all the pieces to fit together really required a lot of work in post. Yeah, you've got the water simulation, your fire simulation that we could then direct and put where we wanted and have the shark get the interaction and then build up layer by layer. A lot of focus on the details in that one. Pretty much everything you're seeing has been touched by us in one way or another. It helped Jama tell a story that he couldn't do on the open ocean. And I think we gave some personality to the shark, so we have a good two-character story going. From the visual effects, we just want audiences to enjoy the ride.
It's so beautiful and also so terrifying.
It just grabs you on such a primal level. It's impossible not to put yourself in that setting.
What did you say the name of it was again?
This is Paradise. For me, it's the main character in this movie, the beach, because all happened in that beach. That beach has a lot of histories and scary things.
This is a secret beach, and for her, it's a place where she can be closest to her mother.
And it was really, I want to just say, a testament to Jama's vision. I mean, when we were looking for the beach, he said, let's give them something they've never seen before.
In Australia, we had to find a beach that looked like a Mexican or Latin American or Costa Rican, isolated, tropical, magical place.
We're on a mission to find the best beach in the world. We went to Australia, we're shown wonderful places. Each time I would be like, it's not good enough. It's not special enough. It doesn't have that wow factor. I want to have this character arrive at this beach, look at it, and the audience have the same feeling that she has. But it has to feel special, it has to feel like mystical. So eventually we convinced the line producer to take us to Lord Howe.
It was Jama, myself, and the DP flew out in a little plane, and when we flew over the island for the first time, we could see the beach, and we could feel that there was something special happening. And then when we came to that beach, I mean, it's like we just knew.
The script has got a unique requirement for a beach that just looks amazing. Even though we looked at some other options, it really came down to Lord Howe having the unique bay that had a real tropical feel. The water was, uniquely tropical. It really is untouched.
So this is a 2.5-hour flight from Sydney into the middle of the ocean, towards New Zealand. And it's a tiny little island. It's, 11 kilometers. And it's an eco-tourism resort.
Lord Howe Island is really world unique. It's World Heritage listed. It's governed by a national park. All the waters around it are governed by a marine park. And then the people who live on the island, they're all 5th and 6th generation islanders. We were the first large-scale film production to be there, and not just be on the island, but using every little piece of value that the island had visually.
There's a reason no one's ever shot a movie on Lord Howe Island. It is very challenging.
Logistically, it was the most complicated thing I think all of us have been involved in. Trying to get 100 film crew with the full package across the Lord Howe Island, which is about 600 nautical miles east of Sydney, was huge. So we had everything from chartering the landing barges that we put all the trucks on. The crew were all loaded up onto charter flights.
There's very little infrastructure. There is no cellular service. There's very limited Wi-Fi. There are very few cars. We rode our bikes to set, often in the dark, often in the rain.
It had its own microclimate, so it was impossible to predict the weather.
The weather would shift, or the tides were coming in. Or we had, unique birds that we had to work around.
Everything's protected there, so we had to be very conscious of that. The terns were nesting at that time, and so we had to be very respectful of the terns.
One of the main challenges is obviously the fact that you now have 80 people and it's supposed to be a virginal beach. The problem is that once you step on the sand, it stops being virginal. So we had to create these paths of single file people walking and then try to erase the footprints as much as possible. The crew was so conscientious of that, and also the fact that I think that when the crew arrived there, they saw that this was such an amazing place. They really were in awe and very respectful of the environment.
All of the things that would lead you to believe that it's a place you shouldn't make a movie, we encountered all of them. However, it is also one of the most beautiful places you'll ever see.
Then we just took those challenges and said, 4 frames of this beach are worth more than 2 hours of another beach that is not perfect. It's an incredible place. Like, you could see that fish were like basically almost in the sand. They were not afraid of people and human contact.
It was really special to get to be there. It was also really neat because we got to put our rock and our buoy out into the middle of the ocean, and everyone left me and went back to shore, and I'm sitting right there in the ocean 300 yards from shore. There's a helicopter that comes in and does the shot and then flies away. But there's a good 30 minutes where I was just sitting out there on a rock in the ocean, and you really felt the enormity of what that situation would feel like. To think that you're that close to land, that's sort of where you feel safe, but it was neat to experience.
So Lord Howe Island really is the heart and the soul of the film. It's the sparkle at the start of the film, and it's the bit that then encapsulates the whole audience.
The film really honors the Lord Howe location in an incredible way. You really feel that you're always there.
It's just this little hidden treasure that I hope we don't ruin after this film, because everybody's going to want to go there.